Mr. Charles, many thanks for doing this with us. The president had a lot to say in his message, but was quiet on areas such as rule of law, which has been at the fore of discussion this couple of months, and also out of school children, among others. How would you score him at midterm?
Okay, well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think first, before I score him, let me quickly say that indeed the president actually warmed himself to me this morning when he made that address or address, because this is the very first time you'll be hearing a president that will admit failure in some areas. Of course, he did admit that Nigerians are suffering, and of course, he cannot take the suffering for granted, which of course is very unpresidential, if you understand what I mean, because for a very long time, all the presidents have been, thumping their chest. They've done well, they've done this, they've done that, but for the president to come out to actually admit that indeed, though they are doing something that they do know that Nigerians are suffering, I think that's one thing that I say he has used to warm himself to. But again, it is very difficult for me to say whether he has performed totally or whether he has failed, because we need to look at it sectorially. If you're just as you, because I listened to your news and all, they talked about what he has done in this, in that. But I think we are still a long way from home. A long way from home in the sense that, for instance, the growth of the GDP in the past 2 years is still very slow, it's about 3.6% growth rate. Of course, that's quite slow. We hope it will be faster. Then again, another thing I also want to give to the president is the stable external reserve, which of course stands at about if I'm not mistaken, I think it's about $38 billion for now or so. Of course, that's a plus to this administration. Then again, the debt, the level of debt is very high, which of course the records put at about 166.17 trillion naira, which is quite high. Then inflation is also high at 23.71. That's quite. That has bust through the ceiling. Okay, so that then again, the one I saw a sore point for me is a very high profligacy in government. Government spending has not reduced. The leakages are still there, which of course have not been plugged, and then government is spending more. And you're talking about even the size of the government is still very, very, very bogus. So I think on this areas, the government has not done well in the issue of profligacy, in the issue of the size of the government. But for, as I said, the growth rate, well, at 3.6. It's a bit okay, but again, we can raise faster than that. And then the issue of insecurity is still a sore point to us, and I think we will do well if we actually face it frontally. Okay, then the issue of the naira is still struggling. It's still struggling at, I think the parallel market is about 1,600 something naira, which of course we can't afford to continue to see our naira sliding almost at a ratio of 7 naira daily. In the parallel, and then the officials about 3 point something. So I think the president has a lot to do in his administration to do well for us to begin to see the gains that they are making in the macro. But in the macro sector, as a former business editor, I can say that the president administration has actually done well in the macro sector. But the problem is there's a disconnect between the macro and the micro. That's why the everyday people have not begun to see the gains of the macro and on the micro sector. So if the fiscal policies we have, they're able to align with the monetary policies, and then we begin to feel the importance and then the yields of this government in the issue of the macro sector that I mentioned, I think Nigeria will begin to look up to say, yes, we are heading towards Eldorado.
Now, Charles, I'm glad you went on this trajectory, because it makes me go back, right? Let's go back to that handover day in 1999, just to jog our memories here. And I have to ask, from 1999, if we remove President Tinubu from this equation and look at the democracy we've had since 1999, unbroken, have Nigerians reaped the benefits of democracy that they were yearning for on that fateful day? And how would you say the president is upholding the tenets of democracy?
Good question. But they say yes, I say no. I always want to answer a question from both divide. On the yes is that at least, well, this is civil rule. As a journalist myself, I do not, when I go on TV, I go on radio to make some public statement, some policy statement. I don't have to be looking over my shoulder whether there will be security. People will say, okay, order from above to now be hounding me. That one we have which of course where I join as a particular journalist. So I can say yes for that. But on the flip side, the no side is that this democracy has really not fair. I mean, have not really done well for the everyday people. Because if you look at the way, it seems as if there's a gap. The gap between the poor and the rich has widened over these many years down the line from 1999. It has widened. I mean, we used to have a middle class, but middle class have been wiped out by government policies, whether political inconsistency, whether policy somersault, whether policies that are geared towards taking care of the elite class. But the everyday people, they are still suffering. So which I said something about the disconnect between the macro and the micro. So the micro level is not doing well, but the macro also have to, sustaining the rich over there. So for me, democracy has not really done well to take care of the welfare of the people. Yes, I am anybody who is in his 50s, in his 40s, who have witnessed military rule, we don't want us to go back to the days of yore when we had military rule, Abacha, all of them. But you see that it seems as if life was better. Life appeared to better. The naira surrender, how much was naira before that Babada came up with the Dutch auction and all that? Naira was maybe the weight of naira was higher. You understand? But we were all looking towards having a civil rule. We got civil rule, but civil rule has not actually done well for the everyday people to actually say, yes, they have a stake in this country, and there's a government, but to whom they have surrendered their mandate to, collectively from 1990 now, successive government. I don't think we'll have too many Nigerians, apart from those who are benefiting, who are on the grounds of power, or people who are linked to the people on the grounds of power and all that. People who are benefiting from successive government will say, yeah, they are doing well. But the everyday people that have been chastised, the everyday people that have been pauperized, the everyday people have been depressed and suppressed, in the manner of speaking, I don't think democracy or civil, whatever nomenclature you may pin on it, has actually helped us at all.
I mean, Charles, I wish you could continue because, but just to state this, right? As we talk about democracy, there was something that you said. I mean, in your submission, you had to put a caveat and say that I have to be clear and and play on both sides because of just so you don't want people on your back. And so it begs to ask a question about freedom of democracy, or better yet, the freedom of journalism and press freedom in this dispensation when it comes to democracy and their intolerance for dissent. But that's going to be a different conversation for another day. But I must say thank you, Charles, for taking out the time to join us. Charles Ideho, he is a public analyst and commentator.